The real reason why I made this video is because I'm kind of disappointed about how someone like Eiichiro Oda has somehow blow his career and wasted his talent, because when artists like Eiichiro Oda commit this kind of mistakes, not only they are depriving themselves from reaching their full potential, but they are also depriving the people around them, aka us, from enjoying such a beautiful experience. Because I remember back in the days when the character of Zoro was being introduced, I was completely, I don't know how to, there are no words to describe my feelings back then, because that was something completely unique. It's like something I have never seen before, and that goes from the mindset to the combat style to the looks of the character. Like the whole package was a complete piece of art, and that was the real reason why I started watching the show. Because now that I'm thinking about, every time they had to step into a new level, all I was waiting for is the Zoro fights. Like, forget about all the other characters. Sanji may have some interesting fights from time to time, maybe like the first fight, but overall, like the other characters, including Luffy, like those are to me more like a something I was forced to watch just because it was like a sort of a task, a tax that I had to pay in order to finally get to the point where I can enjoy Zoro's duels. One thing I've noticed about this issue of those of the other characters, the Straw Hat crew, is that if it wasn't for Zoro, and it may sound like an overstatement, but if you look closer, if it wasn't for Zoro, there's nothing really interesting about anything going on within the story. I mean, everybody is completely fascinated and stunned by Zoro's tenacity and resilience, and his philosophy, and the way how he's picking the path of more resistance, seeking for that inner growth more than anything. To me, someone like Zoro is like a he's like a truth seeker. He's like a real hero, you know. He's like the character who's basically seeking for enlightenment. He was walking the path of the true warrior. I don't know what was going on inside the mind of the writer, but it seems like he's using Zoro as a way to allow for Luffy to get away with his obnoxious fights, basically. Because that's all they are. Luffy's fights are nothing but some obnoxious, complete and utter mess. There's nothing. You're not learning anything from those fights. And unfortunately, this tactic he's been using for a while, it has become like a blueprint for him, as the way how he's organizing the fights, or how he's setting up those that series of fights. Basically, Zoro goes through some really interesting fights, and we are all mesmerized by what happened. Like an example of the Mr. One fight, for instance, that shit was out of this world. Like a fight like that, like one of the most interesting fights I have seen in the history of anime. And basically, what happened is that like we go to this good experience, and because we are kind of like very impressed by the performance, now here comes this goofy ass, disorganized, mentally ill character who's basically trying to enforce himself as the protagonist of the story, and we kind of like so desperate about replicating the cool experience we had with Zoro. So we kind of like, oh, since Zoro had an interesting fight, so does Luffy. Oh yeah, Luffy's fight is as great as Zoro, but the truth is, like Luffy's fight are nothing but complete trash. There's nothing interesting about any of his fight. You can't pick any of the characters he fought against. It's weird. Like the whole notion of a man stretching like a rubber band. It's fucking ridiculous. Like no matter how much he's trying to make it look cool and dark and serious and deep, you still in the back of your mind having that hard time taking something like that seriously because it just doesn't make that much sense. We can't relate to it. It's not like somebody fighting with a sword, like a blade. Somebody fighting with a sword, we can like understand how dangerous the kind of weapons a sword is, so we kind of like naturally relate to how violent and how dangerous and how resilient the character of Zoro has to be in order to survive a fight like that. But when it comes to something like a man stretching like a rubber band, I'm sorry, man. I don't know how to put it into words, but it just doesn't make any sense. Like nobody can relate to something like that. It's not realistic enough, so we could affiliate to it. So we could put ourselves in that fictional character's shoes. Like no one cares. But like I'm saying, because we as a human being, we kind of like hardwired to this need for dopamine. If we go through a good experience and it works, we start to believe that if we just follow the same steps again, we're gonna end up with the same outcome. But that's not true because those kind of experiences are not replicable. And you see that with the character of Luffy, but we can like see that in other pieces of fiction. Like a great example would be the performance of Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight. I watched the Joker movie. I don't understand why people are impressed. I don't even understand what they impressed about. Like I watched the movie. I mean, it was like the worst movie ever, but holy shit, bro, it was one of the most boring movies I've ever seen. There is nothing supernatural about this movie. There is nothing DC about this movie. Like the character himself, the protagonist, like the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, is a complete trash, man. Like he's not smart, he's not intelligent, he doesn't have any kind of philosophy. He's just a complete loser. He's just an idiot. Untalented idiot who's been bullied most of his life and now he's throwing a tantrum about it. Wow, such an interesting story. Like, wow, such a fascinating character. I can definitely relate. Yeah, maybe if you're a complete idiot, a loser like him, maybe you can relate. But anybody in his right mind, someone with a minimum degree of intelligence, would tell you that this character is a complete trash. And the only reason why he's getting so much credit is because of this desperation about replicating the previous experience we had from Heath Ledger. Joaquin Phoenix, as an actor, is not built that way. He's not made for this type of characters. He is not the kind of actor that would play something like the Joker. It's just the reality of things. I watched the whole movie and I still don't understand. Like the only reason why he gets so popular is like I'm saying. First, they wanted to replicate the Heath Ledger performance, and the second thing is because of that. Back in at that time, we had this culture war going on between the far left, the woke, and the far right, the radical red pill shit on the internet. So the red pill are hyping up this Joker movie just as a way to go against the woke culture. So it was more like a culture war, and this Joaquin Phoenix Joker was nothing but a medium, a tool, a weapon to use against their opponents. But on an artistic level, on a storytelling level, on a character development level, I'm telling you, man, there is absolutely nothing interesting about that movie. It is one of the most overrated piece of garbage I've ever seen. And again, it all comes to this idea of trying being so desperate about replicating that experience you had from Heath Ledger. Because at the end of the day, the only reason what made the Batman trilogy so good, it was Heath Ledger's performance of the Joker. I would still give some more credit to Christopher Nolan for the script because he was the one who wrote the dialogues. But if you watch the whole trilogy, the first Batman, there is nothing interesting about that movie either. I mean, yeah, there was some little pieces of wisdom here and there, but overall, it is nothing really interesting about Batman Begins. Same thing with the third one, with Bane. There's nothing really that interesting about the third episode either. They want to call it a masterpiece trilogy. I doubt that. I don't think it's that good. I mean, yeah, the second one is definitely a masterpiece. It's one of the greatest movie I've ever watched. But again, it was all due to this notion of duality between the Batman and the Joker, and Heath Ledger's performance, and Christopher Nolan script of the dialogues. It was all about that philosophical battle. That's what made the movie so interesting. So it's not because it's the Joker. It's not because you're gonna play the Joker, then that's it's gonna make it from it a good story to tell or a good movie. So there's this misinterpretation about what makes a movie or what makes a character good. It's not the character. It's the underneath structure and its role within the grand scheme of the story plot. That's what makes a good character. That's what makes a good movie. Anyway, but let's get back to our subject with the issue of the rise and fall of the character of Rononoa Zoro, because I'm very pissed about this you can call it an artistic tragedy, because that's what it is. Like, that character had so much potential. I wish the company of who owned this IP, this intellectual property, this Shonen Jump, I wish they could give this character his own show, like the same way Marvel did with the Punisher, because the Punisher was so good in Daredevil on Netflix. They had to give him his own show. I was just wishing, hoping if they could give Zoro his own show, away from all this notion of piracy. Because you watch the show and there is no piracy to be found in this story. There's no piracy to be found. Do they look like pirates to you? The only character who looks like a pirate in the whole show is Blackbeard. Like everybody else, they look like they're not even. There's no act of piracy. There's no robbery going on. Okay, they are not hijacking cargoes and stealing goods, or demanding for ransom or anything of this kind. They look more like activists. They fight more over ideologies, like warlords than pirates. Like Luffy's crew, to me they look like students. They look like like a high school student, activist, cosplaying like pirates. And like I'm saying, they don't even look like pirates, cosplaying like clowns, like magicians. Oh, this is it's a world of pirate, and then you start watching the show, and all you see is people turning into animals, people with magic, superpowers. They shooting a laser beam at each other, throwing fireballs. How is that pirate? Where the fuck is the piracy in this? Ain't no piracy in One Piece. I don't understand why he picked the theme of piracy. But anyway, that's not even the issue. Like I'm saying, if Zoro could have his own show away from this notion of pirate, because like I don't even see like in a more realistic scenario, somebody with the mindset of a Zoro would seem to me more like a loner, similar to someone like Mihawk. Okay, somebody with such a grounded mindset, with such cohesive philosophy with a very linear, crystal clear goal. He doesn't need people around him, and the only reason why he's hanging with them is because they are doing him a favor. Like he got someone who's maybe making him food. Like, he has a chef, and then he has like I don't know, maybe like a doctor, like for medical care. That's like a free insurance, free food, free shelter. And that's the only reason what keeps him around that bunch of idiots. All of them. They're all idiots. They're all complete retards. And even this notion that we're like sitting here like discussing a cartoon is itself like if I really want to dive even deeper than that, as adult we shouldn't even be watching television shows catered towards children. The only reason why I'm discussing that is because I thought I could take this character of Zoro and creating from him something more mature, something more developed, something that could be catered toward a more mature audience. That would be great. I was even thinking about if we could have some kind of studio that is only specializing in saving dead franchises, just picking any wasted talent, okay, and rectifying it, fixing it, bringing it back to life. Imagine a studio that specialized only on that, like picking any kind of ruined franchise and bringing it back to life again, making it great again, like the Sonic franchise. Like I'm saying, I was talking about how all the characters of One Piece are kind of like eating from Zoro's plate, because besides Zoro, there is nothing interesting about the other characters. Like this notion of trying to replicate that good experience is it's basically the reason why so many writers keep on getting away with so much bullshit. And like I'm saying, like everything was doing so well for this character at the beginning, all the way up until he fought Mr. One. I was a big fan of the character, and since then, since that incredible performance, he fought this giraffe dude. To me, it was just a very. It was basically the beginning of the fall of this character. A complete disappointment. I still to this day do not understand how is swordsmanship and a giraffe have anything in common. I don't understand the point of this character. Why is he the way he is? What's the point of putting Zoro against such a weird ass character? It makes no fucking sense. And since that character, things just keep on sinking down the spiral. The fights are getting more and more boring, more and more fast. They're too short because it seems like Eiichiro Oda doesn't have time for sitting and building a high quality type of fights for this character anymore. He doesn't have time for this shit because he has to meet the deadline by any means, even if it's at the cost of ruining an exceptional fictional character such as Zoro, which is sad. And it keeps on going down, and the characters, the opponents, the fighters keeps on getting weirder and more obnoxious and more disorganized and less well drawn until it became like completely excruciating for me to even think about watching this character. I was like, all right, that time's out for me. I'm done with this shit. I'm too old for this type of shit anyway. So I had to drop the towel and walk away, which is sad. And later, recently, I saw the most recent fight. It was against the Lord of the Hell. Damn, I can't even remember the name of the dude. That wasn't bad. Like finally, we start getting back to the old Zoro, thinking, analyzing the opponent, trying to understand what's going on, trying to push himself beyond his limits. That was the real Zoro. That was the Zoro that I wanted to watch. but we had to wait up until the the, the, the last fight before we can start watching something like this again. And I still believe it was a complete waste. Think about the time when he faced this character who basically can turn anything into rust. That was a great opportunity for the writer to come up with some really interesting fight. And guess what happened? And now the idiot Usopp shoot him. He shoot the character with, I don't know what the fuck that weapon was, and he killed him and he beat him, and that's it. And now we're all deprived from an interesting fight. Because the thing about Zoro's fights, they are not about good versus evil. They are not about survival. They are just about using the medium of swordsmanship to push himself in order to reach his full potential. This is why I believe that Zoro should not be part of the One Piece world. He is not a pirate. He's not supposed to be part of that world anyway. And like I mentioned early on, this whole notion of piracy is a joke because none of them looks like a pirate at all. And like I'm saying, like the fight keep on downgrading, especially with the introduction of the green energy. That green energy that hasn't been explained to this day. So we don't understand where is the green energy coming from. And we went from some extremely violent, painful, excruciating, dangerous, lethal fights between two warriors, between two swordmen, to this Star Wars ripoff, this laser beam shooting that makes no fucking sense. Everything is exploding. Everything is colorful. So many colors, so much light going on. I can't even track who's fighting who. It's such a brainless fight. There's no theory. There's no identity within those opponents. Who are those people? Fucking nobody. He just pulls a sword and starts shooting those laser beam at Zoro, and Zoro has to stop them. How is that interesting? Don't you think this is a waste of time? Like sitting and watching this brainless, useless fight? Don't you think the experience would be like 10 times way much better if they were fighting over something that matters? If they were at least thinking about what are they doing? But of course, to the One Piece apologists, none of that shit matters. What matters is sticking to the status quo, sticking to the inner belief system, to the narrative he's telling himself about how One Piece is great, because he built an identity over this narrative. And he would do anything to stick to it, to cling to it, like the bitch he is. That's all it is. So yes, Zoro used to be a great character, and he's been killed by his own maker because he was too much of a bitch to stand up for himself, to set up boundaries, and he wanted the job so badly. He gave the franchise to this shonen jump who don't give a fuck about anything but securing paycheck for everybody. And the result it's just another wasted talent. So if you want to blame someone, you gotta blame Eiichiro Oda and the Shonen Jump mob. Anyway, so this was my little rant about the death of one of my favorite characters. I had to make this video because it really means something to me. I really want to see this character coming back to life. I really want to see someone who could do something about it, who could fix it. And I also want to send a message to other writers out there about why you shouldn't sign with the devil, because that signature, as good as it may seem in the front end, sooner or later it's gonna catch you up down the road, and you're gonna pay a huge price in the back end. And now you kind of like missing an opportunity to reach your full potential, completing your purpose by sharing your creativity, your natural gift with your fellow humans. You're also like depriving us from learning something from it. Alright, so this was my little video about this character of Zoro, and I see you soon again.